What is going on, everybody? It is Tuesday, January 21st. Welcome in. This is this week's episode of The Walkthrough. I'm your host, Joe Macheca. Welcome to it. What impressed most about Gamecock women's basketball? 51-point outing over Oklahoma. And then also, how can they keep the momentum rolling into LSU against Kim Mulkey and Flage? I've got one of the best to break it all down with me, Mr. Brad Muller, coming to you live. That full interview coming to you live after the intro. Again, this is a walkthrough. Stay locked in. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for this week's episode of The Walkthrough, presented by the Chief Sports Network. And now, here's your host, Joe Macheca.
Oh, yes, indeed. It's that time of the week. It is time for this week's episode of The Walkthrough. As always, I'm your host, Joe Macheca. This week, I am joined by the voice of South Carolina Gamecock women's basketball, the one and only Mr. Brad Muller, rejoining me for some Gamecock women's basketball talk. Brad, there's a big one this week upcoming, as I mentioned at the top of the show, with LSU, but I do want to break down the thrashing of Oklahoma that went down at CLA on Sunday. But first off, are you staying warm with all this cold weather and all this snow in Columbia?
Oh yeah. The key is layers. You
Yeah.
got layers. That after that you're fine, and stay inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's supposed to get a couple inches of snow. So I hope everyone's staying warm across Columbia, but good to have Brad Muller in with us. So again, talking about that 51-point outing against number 13 ranked Oklahoma. It's pretty impressive to be able to do that against a team as good as Oklahoma is and as good as Reagan Beers is at that center spot. But walk me through what you saw from South Carolina's just big offensive outpouring on Sunday.
Honestly, I think it was maybe the best game they played all year on both sides of the ball because you're right. Oklahoma's a very good team. And South Carolina just had it going on both sides. Sometimes you run into a buzzsaw, and that's what Oklahoma did when they came to Colonial Life Arena because the Gamecocks were shooting it very well, especially early. They were defending very well. They were handling Oklahoma's pace pretty well. Oklahoma likes to get up and down the floor and get a lot of transition offense. They were one of the top scoring teams in the country coming into the game, and you hold them to 61 points. This was a team that was regularly scoring over 100 points this year, and you hold them to, way below their season average. It was just tremendous on both sides of the ball. A lot of times a coach once told me at another school, good shooting will make up for a multitude of sins, and the Gamecocks were shooting it very well early, but they weren't committing a lot of sins either. They were doing the other things right on both sides of the ball, and that was just fun to watch. And the crowd was a big part of it. You had, 18,000 people in there. And I knew after the first quarter, Malaysia Fulwiley hits that, 30-footer at the buzzer to end the quarter. I think that made it 28-9, and it was over. I could just tell how loud the crowd was, and you could just see it with Oklahoma talking with their radio guy before the game. He said he was interested to see how they would respond to a crowd that big because they hadn't played in front of a crowd near that size, in a long, long time. And Oklahoma's got a good basketball program historically. And I think the crowd played a big impact both ways, helping South Carolina and maybe bringing Oklahoma down a little bit after they got punched in the mouth early on.
Yeah, absolutely. The shooting has been something I've been making a big point about it with everything with, the Big Spur, because they've been shooting a ridiculous clip. They've been making just about half their shots. I think it was the first quarter against Texas. They were shooting like 74% or something from the field, which is ridiculous. And so that was always a point of emphasis for Dawn, especially in the early going and some of these slow starts, was just taking better shots. Now that's starting to come along and everyone's starting to eat. Brad, you had 5 scorers in double digits against OU, 9 with at least 5. It's pretty impressive stuff. And Dawn certainly tipped the cap after the game as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's how this team has been built, especially the last couple of years, is with their depth. The beginning of this year, it was a struggle to get points inside the high percentage shots. And, lately they've been able to do a little bit more of that. And when you can do that, when you can get those easy points inside from your post players, or you're getting transition offense going, which South Carolina was getting both of that going against Oklahoma, that opens everything else up, because then all of a sudden your perimeter players have practice shots because they have shots that are, not contested, and you're going to certainly shoot and make a lot more of those when you don't have a hand in your face and you're not rushed. You're catching and shooting in rhythm, and you're going to knock more of those shots down. And again, when you can get the inside game and the transition game going, you have potential for an offensive outburst like we saw on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw, this team make almost as much, or almost a season high in threes too. It was raining, and you mentioned that Fulwiley three. I asked her if that was a play call, if Dawn's calling that in, be like, yeah, step up from the first A in arena and just shoot that thing, or if that was just her play call. And she said, nah, like they were sagging off, so I had to take that shot. We talked a little bit about Fulwiley before this show started, about how when she plays free, incredible things happen. Walk me through that. And what were you thinking, and just on the radio broadcast, when you see her step up and pull that thing, what's going through your head?
Well, it's, when you see her take a 30-foot shot, you're thinking, no, okay, because that's not usually what you'd expect out of her. But she can do it all. She can drive to the basket. She makes layups exciting. I've always said that, and because she just has a way of flipping the hand and getting them to go. But when she's on, she's tremendous. She's obviously a tremendous talent. The only thing that's held her back a little bit this year is when she doesn't do it on both ends of the floor, and that gets her out of the game. When if you're giving up points as much as you're scoring, you're going to come out, or if you're not defending well enough, or if you're turning the ball over. And early in the year, she was turning the ball over quite a lot. And once she, played a little bit more under control and cut out the turnovers, her game has flourished, because she can do a lot of different things. And, she's going to be a big part of South Carolina's success if she can continue to do what she's doing, not turn the ball over, so she can stay in the game and make exciting plays, because she makes everyone around her better. She's so quick. She has another gear. She's fast off the dribble. She can start the fast break. I think the hardest thing for a teammate is always being ready for a pass, because you never know when it's coming. And you saw it in that game. She had a behind the back over the shoulder pass. The game before, I think she had behind the back, to Hina Pau for a layup. So you just got to be ready. And that's hard to do. You might turn around thinking, oh, she's going to shoot it, so you're getting in rebounding position, and then boop, comes over the back, behind the back, whatever. But she's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, most certainly. And, Fulwiley brings that kind of, playground hooper, style to the floor. And it's really what makes her special. And we've seen the Gamecocks online special about her, and growing up in Columbia, playing on the playground. And I've run into people in my circles that grew up playing with her, and just, grew up getting cooked by her at the one spot. So really fun to watch when she can bring that element. Brad, you mentioned the post play. Right. One of the bigger stories, obviously, has been Ashlyn Watkins, but Chloe Kitts and Joyce Edwards have really elevated their game. And then also Miriam Dowda also starting to make a name for herself as well. But first off, I want to start with Joyce. 17 against OU. She's leading the team in scoring. Now, that's big things from a true freshman.
Yeah, she's been tremendous lately, and you knew it was going to come. You just didn't know when things were really going to start clicking, because there's going to be times when she has freshman type of games. Yeah. But I remember in the preseason and seeing her in, the exhibition games, thinking, all right, Joyce is going to do some good things this year because she's ready. Sometimes freshmen aren't ready their first year. And there was times she struggled earlier in the year. I remember the first few games, she was shooting less than 40% from the floor, and she was just missing a lot of layups, just missing a lot of shots that, she probably made 90% of the time in high school, just because she was rushing things. And I know it's a cliche, but when the game starts to slow down a little bit, you can remember your footwork and remember your moves. And she's been much more efficient, really, since the beginning of SEC play. She's been dominant at times. She finishes difficult shots in traffic, and, knock wood, she's making the makeable shots. And what I've always liked about her as a freshman, she gets to the free throw line a lot. In fact, I think she leads the Gamecocks in free throw attempts, and she's knock wood again, a good free throw shooter. And that's what you want out of your post player. You want them getting high percentage shots. And if they're doing their job, then they're probably going to get hacked a lot to prevent those shots. And hey, knock down the free throws. And, she's doing a little bit of all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. She's been really dynamic. And then also, I mean, she's been able to get rebounds too, along with it. And, playing a really good, kind of yin and yang to Sanaya Fagan's starting role at forward in that main post presence. I do want to talk about Fagan, but also want to start with Kits before we get to Fagan. Kits has really elevated her game. It's somebody that we talked about preseason as somebody who, is going to have to step up, in spots when the team needs her most. So far, so good for Chloe, being the clutch player that, acting like a veteran, even though she's not a vet. She's still technically a sophomore, really.
Yeah. Yeah. She's done a good job. She started off the year fantastic, obviously. And she kind of hit a little bit of a slump there in towards the end of December and maybe early January. But the last few games, she's been more like what you'd expect. And she's dangerous. She's got good size. She rebounds the ball well, especially considering she's not that big. I mean, she's only 6'2", but she's not, she doesn't have the girth of a lot of the players she's going up against. So it's a little bit tougher because even though I think she has gotten a lot bigger since she's been here in terms of strength wise, she can still get pushed around a little bit, but she's done a better job of, holding her own under there. And the fact that she can shoot the mid-range, so you have to play her honest. Otherwise, she's going to knock down, the mid-range jumper, and she can drive to the basket. So she's got a good all-around game. It does all open up when you have people like Joyce or Sanaya doing what they need to do inside, because I've always believed you can't have a good 4 without a good 5. A good center, and that was obviously the big question mark this year: is are the Gamecocks, going to be solid at the 5 position? It was a slow start, for most of the year. With that. And then when Ashlyn Watkins went down, you kind of thought, oh boy, where do we go from here? But I think since then, they've stepped up their level of play. I think Sanaya Fagan has really played a lot better since the injury. I think maybe realizing, hey, it's more on me now. You can't just coast and wait for someone else to come in, that you're the one, even though she's always been the starter, that they have stepped up their level of play inside, and they're going to continue to need that, especially as they continue this stretch of 5 straight games against ranked SEC teams.
Yeah, this schedule is bananas already, and then you get into this little run of January, 5 straight ranked teams, like you said, all in conference, which speaks to the level of competition rising too, and everything. I mean, you can tie it back to Dawn and just raising the level of competition in conference, and everyone trying to get to the mountaintop that South Carolina has previously established. But Fagan's been great. I mean, recently, stepping up. Dawn had a quote. It was right after Ashlyn went down, and Fagan stepping up is kind of what it speaks to in my mind. It was Dawn's quote about them playing freer, right? It frees them up. It allows Chloe to make some mistakes. It allows Joyce to make some mistakes, and it allows Fagan to make some mistakes as well. But when they are playing freer, it unlocks a different element of the player, right? Sanaya Fagan hasn't had to be a star player since high school, really. That element of being the it player, or having to make those kind of plays where you're the number 2 option in an offense, or a number 3 option in an offense again. So just revamping those instincts is what it's all about, and Fagan's been able to do it here as of late.
Yeah, she has picked up her level of game, and when coaches talk about playing freer after the injury, that goes down to maybe not worrying that you're going to get pulled out as quickly because you've got Ashlyn, on the bench, and she's done a good job of continuing. Fagan has of playing really well, and over. If they do make a mistake, not getting pulled as quickly, and that's allowed some more minutes for other people as well. So you hate to say an injury has helped, but in certain ways it has. Obviously, they would love to have Ashlyn Watkins back because she's a unique player. I call her a unicorn because of the unique skill set that she has that you just can't replicate.
Yeah, absolutely. And, she will be missed. And obviously Dawn said, expecting a big senior year from her. And everything with Watkins and her recovery, wish her a speedy one. But one of those players, or I guess the back end of this forward rotation, is something that's been the topic of discussion. Miriam Dowda has been the one getting the nod from Dawn just recently because of her ability to shoot the 3. She's made a couple threes here. And she's been able to get the experience that she's needed to kind of, let the game start slowing down a little bit here. What is your take? What have you seen from Miriam Dowda, and then also the back half with Adele Tack and Sakima Walker?
Yeah, with Marion, you just want to see more confidence because this is a kid who, she's a junior. She's big. She's one of the bigger bigs for the Gamecocks. She's 6'4", which means she's a little bit bigger than Sanaya and Chloe Kitts. And she was a starter in Arkansas. She's used to the SEC. So you expect a little bit more of her. Now her game at Arkansas was more of a run and gun, shoot from the perimeter, things like that. But she is big enough where she can play big. Inside where she can be a good rebounder and being active. And she doesn't have to be just shooting threes all the time. She hasn't shot for a great percentage this year compared to what she's done at Arkansas. She's hit a couple lately, but just that threat is obviously good that you have to guard her. If you leave her open, okay, well, it's a practice shot. And then, if you do closely guard her out on the perimeter, she can drive. But as she continues to see more minutes, she needs to be a bigger presence under the boards. And that's the most important thing, denying second chances or giving the Gamecocks second chances. So she has to use her size, more. We've already talked about what Joyce can do. And Sanaya, for Adele, she's the biggest one at 6'5". They try to give her minutes so they can use her size. She and Sakima Walker are both 6'5". For Adele, she missed her last 2 years of high school due to injury. And you can see that, sometimes it's getting a little bit better the more minutes she has. So they want to get her in there so it can continue to get better. But when you've missed most of your last 2 seasons of high school basketball, it's like releasing, a baby giraffe out into the wilderness. There's going to be some awkwardness but she's coming a long way. And they're going to need those players, even if it's just for a few minutes a game, or if someone gets in foul trouble, before a media timeout, something like that, to give them good minutes where they can at least deny points in the paint and grab a rebound or two. So, both Adele and Sakima will be important in that role, at least to give you good minutes and grab some boards.
Yeah, certainly going to need it. I think, having Dowda's ability to shoot, it comes in handy when you get put into a spot like you did last season in the SEC tournament, when you have a big at the top of the key with seconds winding down. You have somebody that can shoot it, and it's not as unexpected as letting Camila Cardoso let one fly. So it's a lot of good stuff on the Oklahoma game and everything. So I want to talk about LSU. That's the main reason why I brought you here, Mr. Muller. Obviously big tilt, with LSU being ranked number 5 coming in. It's at Colonial Life this year. College game day coming to town as well. LSU's played 2 ranked games. So South Carolina's 8 on the year. What is your initial, thoughts on this matchup, considering the experience that South Carolina has in big games, and then LSU, still might be kind of fresh coming in?
Well, this is the one everyone had their finger pointed at before the season started because of the 2 games last year. You've got the last 2 national champions going head to head. Of course, Gamecocks won it last year. LSU wins it the year before. Gamecocks beat LSU at their place last year with a big rally late. I think they were down 11 or 12 and had a big fourth quarter to come back and win it. And then you had the SEC tournament, which was a nail biter. And, there were some unfortunate things that happened in that game that, shouldn't have, with the trash talking and the little melee in there that, made it kind of ugly. But it's going to be great because, LSU is undefeated. I think they're one of 3 undefeated teams in the country. They're 20-0. They haven't quite, as you brought up with the ranked teams, they haven't played as many good teams as South Carolina has, but when they have, they've won. So, I don't know that they're going to be intimidated by South Carolina's atmosphere, because even though it's going to be hostile compared to where they play at home, they get big crowds at their place too because of what they've done. So the crowd will be impactful if South Carolina can jump out, like they did against Oklahoma. That will certainly be impactful. But this is a veteran team. They've got veteran players. Their starting 5 are as good as anybody in the country. And so that's what's going to make it a fun matchup. If you look at just the one-on-ones with the starting 5, the numbers are pretty gaudy for LSU. It's a matter of, okay, can you weather that storm, maybe get into their bench a little bit, hopefully gets, some of them into foul trouble. But LSU's got everything you want between, you mentioned Flau'jae Johnson, who's an SEC player of the year, candidate, averaging 20 points a game. And maybe, the runner-up, or maybe who she's tied with is her teammate, Anissa Morrow, the forward, who's averaging a double-double, 19 points, 14 rebounds a game. She's got 18 double-doubles. Yeah, she's putting up video game numbers. Yeah. I think she's got 92 career double-doubles. I mean, those are, individually two of the most impressive players in the league in terms of statistically. And, they're both on one team. So, and it's inside and outside. So Gamecocks are really going to have their hands full with those two. And they've got others as well. Michaela Williams, who's fantastic, is averaging nearly 17 points a game. Kaylin Gilbert's been clutch for them, another guard. So, this starting five for LSU is as good as anybody in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say Anisha Morrow's stat line is ridiculous. As good as Flage is and as much attention as she can bring to the basketball floor, Anisha Morrow's stat line is nuts. Just averaging more than a double-double is crazy, especially at this level. But, one thing that stuck out to me about Texas's head coach was talking about it, how South Carolina's all of their leading scorers come off the bench, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're averaging double digits in scoring into the bench, or right. Joyce comes off the bench. Joyce doesn't necessarily start, right? And so, and I asked Dawn about it. Same with the same premise. I gave you with five scores in double digits, and Dawn was like, it's just goes to say, this team, we're sacrificing, the SEC Player of the Year honors, the SEC Player of the Week honors, all this just to play as a team and not make each other look bad. And so, at least my synopsis of this game is, they're going to have to out-depth them. And South Carolina's got a lot of depth. And LSU, they got some depth, sure, but not quite as much as South Carolina. I'm kind of getting at it a little bit there.
Yeah, you've got to be able to hold serve when, let's say, the starting five are going at it. You can't let their big names go nuts. Even if you're trailing by a little bit, you take a few punches, you give a few punches. Not literally, but and then when one of them has to come out for a little bit, when you do have to sub out here or there or late in the game, that's where you if the game is still close, you feel like you have the opportunity because you've got the fresher legs, or you've got someone else who's equal to the one that's replacing, where maybe LSU doesn't have that coming off their bench. So you have to take advantage of those opportunities. If you can wear them down a little bit, get them in foul trouble, which, I mean, at this point, they're accustomed to playing the minutes they're going to play. The LSU is, they're accustomed to playing more than half the game with their starters. But, you look at South Carolina's individual statistics, and nobody's going to make first team all SEC based on their statistics, right? But when you combine those top nine, if you took the two players that are swapping out for each other at every position, then it's pretty formidable because it all adds up because they're all playing in the game. And that's the way it's been the last couple of years. But, it's going to be a really interesting matchup. Can they keep Anisha Morrow under control? And, she's probably going to get her double-double because, she's got 12 of them in 20 games. So chances are she's going to. But can you keep her going, from going to, with 25 points? Same with Flau'jae Johnson. She's averaging 20 points a game. Can you make her inefficient? If she gets 20 points, great. If she gets 20 points on 30 shots, okay, you'll take that. But if she gets 20 points on 12 shots, all right, then you're in trouble. So their individuals might get theirs, so to speak, but you have to make them inefficient. And that's what's going to be the difference in the game. Not so much what their point totals are, but if you look at number of shots they take compared to the points they have. Yeah,
it's a good stat. I like it. We'll certainly be looking at that. In terms of defensive matchups for Flau'jae and Morrow, we've seen a lot, or Dawn kind of mix and match who she has on the number one. But we've seen a lot of Bree Hall on the guards. Who do you think the matchups will be, or do you think it'll be, kind of guarded by committee more or less?
I think you'll have your primary, whether it's it might be Bree Hall or Raven. Probably, I would guess Breezy to start, but we'll see how it goes. But they'll switch off a little bit, and again, that's part of that wearing down. And you try to wear down those players as much as you can, and give them a few different looks here or there. And then with Morrow, it's kind of all hands on deck. It's denying the entry pass, and that's the job of whichever forward is guarding. But also it's the job of whoever's guarding where the ball is before it gets to Morrow, and not allowing that entry pass, not allowing the pass from the point guard into the low block. If Morrow's going to hurt you, it better be, where she gets the ball outside, hits a mid-range or drives to the basket or something. You don't want to make it easier and give her layups all day. And a lot of that starts not just with the interior presence, whether you're playing behind or in front, and that'll be something to watch early to see how they. I would assume they're going to play perhaps in front of Morrow to deny entry passes. Although she's not big height-wise. I think she's only 6'1" or 6'2", but she's such a big body. I don't know if you can still play behind her. You don't have 6'7" and Camila Cardoso this year that can play behind her and say, yeah, you're not getting over me. So it'll be interesting to see how they play Morrow, whether they play in front or back. They're going to have some help defense on her. Obviously, if she does get the ball in the post, there'll be some collapsing there, which, will leave somebody open. But initially, I think you got to start with the guards and denying those entry passes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one thing that stuck out to me about, kind of that help side defense, Nia Fagan's been talking about it a bunch, and I expect to see her if she's not on Morrow, in a lot of help side situations, right? She's got a very good defensive presence when she's in the hole, just sitting back, and she knows when to cut. She knows when to flood in backdoor and help out. And so I think she's going to be a big weapon as well against Anisha Morrow and LSU. Brad, before we get you out of here and kind of wrap things up, South Carolina, early on in the year, it felt like they were kind of beating themselves, right? We know this team has so much talent, right? And the only thing that was kind of getting in their way or keeping games close was, say, slow starts or, scoring in the post, scoring in the break. They found a way to kind of squash all of those things leading up into the 51-point, blowout that you saw against OU. Brad, which one of the things that they've, struggled with this year and have had to fix, do you think is going to be the most important, thing to watch against LSU?
I think they need to continue to get off to a good start. As you mentioned earlier in the year, South Carolina would get off to a lot of slow starts. And I don't think you can afford to do that against a team like LSU because they can pour it on. They're the best shooting team in the SEC statistically. So you can't afford to let them get on too many runs. Basketball is a game of runs. At some point, they're going to get on an 8-0 run or something like that. And hopefully so will South Carolina. But you've got to be able to counter and not let them get off to that great start. South Carolina needs to start well. And then, they have to be active on the inside on both ends of the floor, whether it's getting out in transition, feeding the post, and maybe being aggressive, seeing if you can get a couple of fouls on Morrow early. Can you get some shots up with Fagan and Kitts and Joyce coming off the bench and just keep pounding it without getting an offensive foul called, which has also been a problem. But number one, you got to get off to a good start. And then, you've got to challenge inside and put some pressure on their big inside. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Brad, last question before I get you out of here. Again, really appreciate you joining me on this snowy Tuesday evening. But if you were to give me one player or one impact player to watch or one player that you think is going to make the most impact against LSU on Thursday, who would that be?
Yeah, that's tough because
they're deep.
Really it is. And I keep thinking it's going to be on the defensive side of things because you never know who's going to, that's the fun thing about this team offensively. You never know who's going to hit the big shots, especially coming off the bench, because that's the way it's been all year. It was Full Wiley the other day. Sometimes it's Tessa Johnson who can fill it up. I'm going to just go out and say, Raven, point guard play, making good decisions, not turning the ball over when you've got those active guards in your face. Getting the ball to people where they can score and getting the transition game going a little bit. So I think point guard play will be huge, and we'll see what Raven can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that pick because Raven's starting to come along a little bit, right? It feels like she's due almost,
right?
In a way. And she had a couple threes against OU that didn't necessarily go her way, but really starting to see the floor better offensively and really starting to come around. So I like that pick. I also think she's due for something.
Yep, and she can do things on the defensive end,
yes,
as well. So maybe she can make some plays there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, once again, that is the man, the myth, the legend, Brad Muller. Brad, appreciate you joining me again tonight. And any last words before we get you out?
Joe, I appreciate you having me on. Just everyone stay safe out there, and for those coming to the game on Thursday, get there early. Going to be a lot of traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, Brad Muller joining me on this Wednesday night. Appreciate him joining me. Gonna hit a quick commercial break before I sign off and kind of close the episode. But again, appreciate everyone tuning in. This is the walkthrough. And that was Brad Muller. But here's a quick commercial break, and we will be back to wrap everything up right after this.
Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does nationally recognized the Barndominium Company, where they are building dream homes in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Tennessee. Their turnkey process can be custom designed and takes 6 months on average. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. Thebarndominiumco.com.
I said, oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Ain't nobody got time.
SC.com.
What Right to Bear is we're an association of members across the entire country, and what we offer is we offer legal defense in the event of a self-defense case.
Nice.
So it's not insurance. So we offer an attorney in the event that one of our members might have some type of an accident. ProtectWithBear.com. We've got all of our social media accounts on the bottom of our website. We've got blogs, articles, detailed description of all of the coverages in depth. And, we'd love to have you come check us out and ultimately get the protection you need.
Yeah, once again, appreciate all of our sponsors, here at the walkthrough in the Chief Sports Network. Again, the Barndominium, Protect with Bear. Again, appreciate all of our sponsors. It was an awesome interview with Brad Muller. Again, breaking down LSU. If you missed it, you can check it out. Just rewind us on YouTube. If you're on Twitter, you can also scroll back through and watch the entire interview with Brad Muller. Again, breaking down South Carolina women's basketball's 51-point outing against Oklahoma, and then also previewing the big tilt with LSU on the way this Thursday at 8 o'clock, college game day in town. So it should be electric. As in terms of what's next for the Chief Sports Network, Matt Anderson and Alex Jones are live tonight, I believe, going live at 7:30-ish. So stay tuned, stay locked into the Chief Sports Network YouTube channel. They will be live talking all things South Carolina basketball, South Carolina football. So be sure to check them out. And once again, appreciate everyone tuning in to tonight's episode of The Walkthrough. Again, had a great one with Brad Muller. If you missed any of it, go back on the YouTube channel and check it out. Check out the full episode, full preview with LSU. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight, and enjoy the rest of your week. Stay warm. Know it's a little chilly for everybody.